If there's one thing that there's not enough of on the internet lately, it's discussion about the ending to Mass Effect 3.
That was a joke.
The Indoctrination Theory. Hello again. I'm the guy that made that one video review of Mass Effect 3's ending. If you don't know the one I'm talking about, there's a link in the description. This video will make more sense if you watch that one first, but I should warn you, that one is 39 minutes long, so I understand if you're not in a big hurry to watch it. If you want a shorter version, here's a summary of my thoughts on the Mass Effect 3 ending. Long story short, I did not care for it, but my opinion was based on the assumption that what we saw happening was actually happening. What if it wasn't?
Reaper indoctrination is an insidious means of corrupting organic minds, reprogramming the brain through physical and psychological conditioning, using electromagnetic fields, infrasonic and ultrasonic noise, and other subliminal methods. The Reaper's resulting control over the limbic system leaves the victim highly susceptible to its suggestions. Organics undergoing indoctrination may complain of headaches and buzzing or ringing in their ears. As time passes, they have feelings of being watched and hallucinations of ghostly presences. Ultimately, the Reaper gains the ability to use the victim's body to amplify its signals, manifesting as alien voices in the mind. The Reaper's suggestions can manipulate victims into betraying friends, trusting enemies, or viewing the Reaper itself with superstitious awe. Should a Reaper subvert a well-placed political or military leader, the resulting chaos can bring down nations. Long-term physical effects of the manipulation are unsustainable. Higher mental functioning decays. Rapid indoctrination is possible, but causes this decay in days or weeks. Slow, patient indoctrination allows the thrall to last for months or years.
What if Shepard, who has spent his share of time around Reapers over the course of the series, has succumbed to their indoctrination, and either part or all of the final sequence is just taking place in his head? I would have to revise almost everything about my opinion of the ending. Good thing I'm making a video about it. So let's get to it. Here, in a nutshell, are my thoughts on the indoctrination theory. Alright, that's a bit of an exaggeration. Actually, I admire the ingenuity of this theory. Against all odds, it just might be plausible enough to work. So is it true? That depends on what you mean by true. If by true you mean that it's what BioWare intended all along, I rate the chances of that at around 10%. If by true you mean that it's how they're going to adjust the ending, assuming they adjusted it all, I rate the chances of that at, let's say, 40%. In either case, I hope it's not true. I have two sets of objections to a hypothetical ending of this type. One I make as a player, and the other I make as a customer. My objections as a player. If you watched my last video, you might remember this part, where I showed how all the confusing and contradictory things about the Mass Effect 3 ending combine to obscure narrative coherence. The appeal of the indoctrination theory is that maybe we can roll all of this back to where we were when we first started the Earth mission. So let's do that. Let's run indoctrination through my garbled, overlapping narration machine and see how it holds up. The Codex says that indoctrination can show us ghostly presences. It doesn't say anything about detailed hallucinations where different figures represent different parts of your mind. Is this science fiction or Jungian psychodrama? The catalyst part is a hallucination, and the destroy ending is the one that lets us win? Why would the catalyst show it to us at all? Why not show us just the indoctrination can make us see and hear things that aren't there? They're saying Shepard trick us into shooting ourselves or walking off a ledge or something? If I'm going to hallucinate his giant death laser right overhead, like how could Shepard possibly survive? Do you remember all of those questions I had about trying to escape the wave of light? Given how little I know about that nuts and bolts and indoctrination, is that supposed to any of the above questions with any confidence? Well, it is better than the old ending. You can still kind of see narrative coherence back there if you squint and hold your head just the right way, but it's not exactly good. If you're a supporter of this theory, you may have seen some or all of these questions before, and you may have answers for them. You may even have good answers for them. Because of the nature of the speculation here, it's very difficult to argue for or against the indoctrination theory based on merit. This may seem like a strength, but it's actually a weakness. Let me explain what I mean in my favorite way, by busting out a tangentially related clip from an old Star Trek show. This is from an episode of the original series called Spectre of the Gun. In this episode, Kirk and company are transported to a surreal recreation of the gunfight at the OK Corral, where Spock realizes that something is wrong.
Spock, you've got something?
A fact, Captain. Physical laws simply cannot be ignored. Existence cannot be without them.
What do you mean, Spock?
I mean, Doctor, that we are faced with a staggering contradiction. The tranquilizer you created should have been effective.
It would have been effective anywhere else.
Exactly. Doctor, in your opinion, what killed Mr. Chekhov?
A piece of lead in his body.
Wrong. His mind killed him.
Well, come on, Spock. If you've got the answer, tell us.
Physical reality is consistent with universal laws. Where the laws do not operate, there is no reality. All of this is unreal.
What do you mean unreal? I examined Chekhov. He's dead.
But you made your examination under conditions which we cannot trust. We judge reality by the response of our senses. Once we are convinced of the reality of a given situation, we abide by its rules. We judge the bullets to be solid, the guns to be real. Therefore, they can kill.
Chekhov is dead because he believed the bullets would kill him.
He may indeed be dead. We do not know.
But we do know that the Melkotians created the situation. If we do not allow ourselves to believe that the bullets are real, they cannot kill us.
Exactly. I know the bullets are unreal. Therefore, they cannot harm me.
We must all be as certain as you are, Mr. Spock, if we're to save our lives.
Precisely.
That's not possible. There'd always be some doubt.
The smallest doubt would be enough to kill you.
Damn, Spock is just spocking his ass off in this scene. See, even though we're in a situation that's not real, the writers use this dialogue to ground the audience in a set of recognizable rules and expectations. This is crucial to the storytelling. Being in a situation that's unfamiliar but logically cohesive is a far more entertaining experience than swimming around in a sea of confusion. And the indoctrination premise, unfortunately, is closer to a sea of confusion. We as players have almost no information on what it's like to be indoctrinated. It's only something we've ever seen from the outside. So instead of being a cool dramatic device, it becomes a catch-all excuse for anything and everything the game puts in front of us. A godlike glowing kid shows up with 3 nonsensical choices? Of course you'd see that. You're being indoctrinated. Teddy Roosevelt shows up with Scarlett Johansson and a woolly mammoth? Of course you'd see that. You're being indoctrinated. The ambiguity of events and their meanings is simultaneously a narrative weakness and a quality that makes this theory dangerously tempting for BioWare to latch onto. Will they latch onto it? I have no idea. I'm not a Swami. This entire discussion could be completely irrelevant to whatever their plans are. But if they are thinking about it and they're watching this, don't do it. Dudes, seriously, don't. My objections as a customer. Back when I bought Mass Effect 3, I entered into an implied contract with BioWare and EA. The contract was simple. I give you $60 and you give me a video game. And in this case, a video game is presumed to include a beginning, a middle, and an end. Not a beginning, a middle, and a shell game to be resolved with DLC at some unknown point in the future. This objection I have as a customer actually overlaps with one I have as a player. One of the things that makes a game different than, say, a movie is that I experience it at my own pace and I have some influence over how the story plays out. If I'm a dedicated player, I might finish it in just a few days and take care to finish all of the side quests and max out my Paragon or Renegade bar. Someone else might take weeks to finish and play the decisions by ear. Either way, each of us is crafting our own experience and experiencing our own dramatic arc. A good dramatic arc is an asset to a story. But let's look at what happens if the indoctrination theory was BioWare's intention all along. I go through exposition, followed by rising action, followed by climax, followed by months of irritation and uncertainty, followed presumably by falling action, and, if I pre-ordered at GameStop, denouement. Right at the point where the drama and suspense are peaking, My gameplay experience is yanked out of Mass Effect 3 and dropped into frustrating lack of communication from BioWare 3 Revenge of the press release. This is not a good change. You might be wondering, won't this be true whether any ending DLC uses the indoctrination theory or not? Well, yes. But if there's no indoctrination, that means they did it by accident, which isn't nearly so bad as doing it on purpose. That may seem like an arbitrary difference to you, but I've decided to go with it. What should BioWare do instead? So I'm not a big fan of the indoctrination theory, but I should also say that I don't think it's horrible. What's more, I've braced myself for the possibility that BioWare will go this route, either because they meant to all along, or because they see this as the most workable way out of the corner they've painted themselves into. If that is the case, then I hope they do it carefully and don't fall into any of the open manhole covers that litter the ground all around this theory. I know they're watching this, because my YouTube videos are so important and groundbreaking that I assume everyone is watching them. And if they do go in this direction, I hope they still follow as much of the advice I gave in my last video as possible. Since I made my last video, I've learned a few things. I've learned that it's easy to make the background music too loud. I've learned that my voice doesn't sound nearly as cool as I thought it did. And I've learned that against all odds, there appear to be people out there who actually enjoy listening to me drone on and on about video games and stuff. So I may make more videos. My original plan for this video was to use the indoctrination theory as a springboard for a bunch of bitching about EA. But then I changed my mind, because the only way to do that was through a ham-fisted segue. Then I changed my mind back because I've never let that stop me before. Then I changed my mind back again when I realized how much work it would be. So instead, I thought I would ask whoever's watching, if I someday make another video, which of these possible topics should it be about? I do read many of the comments I get, though not all of them. And I saw that in classic YouTube comment fashion, somehow my last video found its way into an argument about religion and the military or something. Anywho, here's the list again. I also keep my eye on the BSN forums. Also, this is the end of the video.